Real Life with Susan Harf, our very favorite life coach. Thanks for joining us, and I'm Rose Martin. Susan's going to take us on another journey today with tools and strategies for how that we can navigate some of those tricky life bumps or just some of the things that we're asking her about. I can't wait to hear what she's thinking about today. Hi, Susan.
Hi there, Rose, and I'm so glad you could join us. So today I am thinking about decluttering.
Oh, Susan, I think you
Yeah.
are talking my language.
Well, it's everybody's language
Yeah.
lately. People are talking a lot to me about wanting to declutter, but not really knowing where to begin.
Because they're all treasures.
They're all
They're all treasures.
it all means something,
Yeah.
and I've been through it myself. We downsized. We moved from the house where we raised our children to a condo, which is entirely different. And one of the things I found out was that what was important and exciting to me was not necessarily important to my children. So I had tons of stuff of theirs. I mean, I literally had every little scribble that they had ever done from pre-K, from preschool on. And they wanted none of it.
Oh.
None of it. So I suggested, instead of just throwing it all out in mass, I think that it's a good idea to go through what you have. It takes time. Do not expect the decluttering to last 5 minutes or even 5 hours. It's going to take time. For those of you who are thinking about moving, downsizing, regardless, even if you're moving to a bigger space, you need to take stock of what you have and determine if that's going to move with you. And it's such a, I can tell you from personal experience, and those of my clients, it's such a freeing experience to start over in a new space, because you don't have to bring it all with you. And the things that you do bring with you should be of value today. That's not to say that the memories can't go with you, but it's surprising to me how much stuff people carry. And it becomes a burden.
And accumulate. And I know that we're not planning on moving, but we know we have to attack the attic and the garage.
Yeah.
We know we need to do it.
Yes, and usually the basement is included in that for some people. So,
Well, we don't have a basement, so that's the only reason.
So it's the attic.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. So what I suggest you do when you make the decision, this is it, we're going to get into the project now. I suggest that you do it one room at a time, because, or in the case of the basement or the attic or the garage, one space at a time. Sometimes what people do is they look at the whole project and they say, oh no, not today.
Right.
And then they close the door and they forget about what's in the basement, and they open up the door maybe the next month, maybe the next year, maybe not till 10 years. But when you open it up again, it's still the same stuff and probably piled on more. So what's important is that if you tell yourself you don't need to do it all in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. You didn't move in and create all this accumulation in a day. So just like it took time to accumulate it, it's going to take time to get rid of some of it. And then what you do is, you tackle one project at a time, one space at a time, and you sort of make piles. There's a pile for things that are not yours, but they may be your children's, or your parents' or other people's stuff that you're holding for them. And that's the pile that you can get rid of the easiest, because if they don't want it, you need to get rid of it.
But then there's the stuff you're holding because they're old family heirlooms or memories, but somehow you're the keeper of the stuff.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, I don't know how I can get rid of grandma's this or mom's this.
Exactly. And that's very difficult because there are memories attached to that. And what I say is, if the memory can be there without you needing whatever it is, then I think it's okay to give it up. Give it to people who can use it, donate it, sell it, whatever. But most of the time, the memories are still with you without needing to have that gigantic soup tureen that you've never used or not going to use. If, however, you use it, then not only is there nothing wrong with getting rid of it, I am a big believer in having generational kinds of memories and different things that we use to not only generate those memories, but to keep them going. So, for instance, I have a lot of my in-laws' serving pieces, and I use them all the time. I use them whenever I have company. I use the serving pieces. Now, I haven't used them in a little while because of COVID, and we haven't been having people over. But I can't wait to get back to it. I can't wait to use them again. So they are part of my everyday life, and when it's not COVID. So I have no intentions of getting rid of those. I use them. They bring me memory every time I use them. I think about my in-laws. My father-in-law, thank God, is still alive. Think about my mother-in-law every day.
And they bring you joy.
And it brings me
Yeah,
joy.
happiness, yeah.
It just brings me so much happiness to use these things. And I love the fact that they didn't start in this generation. I love the fact that it started with them. And in some cases, it started with their parents. So I have their silver, for instance, that started with their parents. I love that, and I attach memory to that. And frankly, I'm hoping that my children will want those things and attach memory and memories of being with us when we use those. So that's a category. Then there are things that you have that you will never use again, and they don't even have memory. They don't even have things about them that you can't live without. It's just that you've always had it there. You've always had that chair in the corner in the basement, and it's sat there for 30 years, and you're never going to use it again. It's broken. The legs are broken. Maybe you were going to paint it and put new legs on, or who knows what. You're not going to do it.
We have stuff that people have given us that we've never used, but you don't want to get rid of it because, they gave it to you, or maybe you will use it in the future. But yet, you're right, it has no attachment whatsoever. It's just taking up space.
It's taking up space. You have no memories already included, that you can attribute to this thing. And if someone gave you something 10 years ago and you haven't used it yet, chances are you're not going to incorporate it into your overall environmental scheme. So I suggest get rid of it. Absolutely. Now there's another category, and that's the category that every woman I know can relate to. And those are the clothes that you haven't worn in years, that may or may not fit you anymore, and you can't get rid of them.
You mean everybody doesn't have 4 or 5 sizes in their closet?
Well, I do.
Right.
Hello,
right.
I do.
Same here.
And so therefore, the clothes that don't fit are still in play, because even though they're not on my body now, they might be.
Yeah, they're going to get there again.
I might lose 10 pounds. I hope I will. And then those will be appropriate.
And they're my favorites.
And they're your favorites, of course. And so I say, you don't have to get rid of those because I'm not getting rid of those. But in all honesty, if you haven't, some people say, some of my friends who also do what I do, they tell their clients, if you haven't worn it in a year, get rid of it. I do not subscribe to that theory because, look, COVID happened. We haven't worn some of our clothes.
We're just going to take a wash of that year.
We're going to take a wash of that year. But the truth is that there are times when you don't have a need for clothing of that category, but you may next year. For instance, I have a few dresses that I wear to weddings. And I wear them to weddings, and I've had them a long time, and they're my wedding dresses. They're the things I wear to weddings. I love them. I want to wear them, but I may not have a wedding to go to this year. That does not mean that I want to get rid of the dress. So we tend to think of clothing relative to seasonal, and we think of it relative to category. So if you have things that you wear to certain events, or certain kinds of things that you would wear it for, like dressy things or very casual things, I would not be so quick to get rid of those if you haven't worn them recently, because you may have the occasion to wear those again. But if you have things in your closet, if you are in your 60s and they were from your teens, time to go. I'm a big believer also, though, in the notion that the concept of things don't have to be in style. I mean, I'm not really into that it has to be like cutting edge style for me to wear it. If I like it and I enjoy it and it feels good on me, I'm going to wear it.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for something to have to be cutting edge designed this year. For those people who do, they're in a whole different level of getting rid of things, because then you better get rid of a lot of stuff that you've purchased in the past that you're not going to wear. I tend to wear old clothing, new clothes. It doesn't matter to me when I bought it. So if you're like me and the age is not an issue and cutting edge style is not an issue, then I would keep something even though it's older. But for some people who aren't going to wear that, get rid of it. And especially if it's so old that it will never fit again, that it will never be in style again. You know, I can think of very few things that didn't come back in style. But for instance, there was a time when I wore high heels. I don't feel comfortable in high heels anymore. And especially the thin high heels. Forget it. I can't walk in those anymore. There's no point in me keeping those shoes.
Just to look at them, and they're beautiful shoes, right?
That's right. Even though I love shoes.
Yeah, I've got a thing for sweaters. So I find that I have so many sweaters that I'm like, oh yeah, I like that one. Yeah, I like that one too. Oh, I'm going to wear that because I really like it. And then I end up with bins full of sweaters that are all nice sweaters, and I think, but I really don't need 45 sweaters. There are 45 cardigan sweaters.
Yeah.
So that's my thing, is like pass them through. Luckily, I have sisters, and my mom's still alive, so I can pass through, you know, to my sisters to say, would you like this? Would you like to, you know, wear this for a while? But that's my thing. I just have a hard time. Or if you bought it and you haven't worn it, then it's like, well, I spent too much money on that, and I haven't, you know, maybe it wasn't right to begin with, but I'm gonna make it right.
Yeah, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And I also caught the part where you just said, do you want to wear this for a while? So it sounds like you don't want to give it up.
Oh, no, I do give it. So when I give it to them, but I have got one sister who is a great pass-through. I mean, she is a great pass-through, no problem whatsoever, but yet my other sister, she can keep everything for what if. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. But so I was thinking about my one sister when I said, would you like to wear this for a while? Because she might wear it only one day, and then it's off. It's gone somewhere.
Well, the thing that goes along with what you're saying is we tend not only to keep our things for a long time, but we also gravitate to the same thing. So we were sharing earlier that you may have a lot of sweaters, but if they're all different, that's a whole different situation. I gravitate to the same kind of thing. So along with being willing to get rid of things, I also need to be willing to not walk into a store and buy the same thing that I bought a year ago.
The duplication.
So I have too many black sweaters. I don't need another black cardigan sweater. I have long ones, short ones, you know,
cashmere
oversized
ones, cotton ones,
cashmere
everything.
ones,
Yeah.
cotton. I don't need that anymore. I don't need another black sweater. And yet, when I go into a store, I could be looking for a coat, and I'm drawn to that black sweater. So we need to get a grip on that. Okay, so right now we're talking about our own issues.
Right. I hope someone else can share that issue, because we're doing our own therapy.
We're okay, we're doomed. But the bottom line here with accumulating is that you do need to sift through, sort through. You need to look at things one room at a time or one space at a time. And then you need to determine, is the memory that this evokes, is it a memory that's going to be with you without having this cumbersome thing that you're not going to use again? If, as I said, if the memory is accompanied by using these beautiful linens at dinner that you inherited from family members, by all means, if you're continuing to use them, don't get rid of them. I want to talk for a moment about something that's akin to accumulating a lot of stuff, but it's not the same thing, and that's hoarding. And right now, hoarding is an issue because we see it, there are television programs about hoarding. Hoarding is not necessarily about stuff.
And clutter. There's a difference.
There's a difference. Although people think of it the same way, because when you are a hoarder, you have a lot of stuff, and your house is very cluttered. Your life is cluttered. In the hoarder's mind, everything is meaningful because it has not a memory attached to it, but it has something significant that the person doesn't want to part with because of ownership, because of being in charge, because of being able to have some power over something. And so hoarding has to do with not just responsibility taking for what you're going to have and what you're going to declutter. It's really not about that. The hoarding is more, I feel insecure and I need this to make me feel better. I need this to make me feel more secure. I need to hang on to this because I'm afraid to give it up. And then when we dig deeper, what the person is afraid of really has nothing to do with this broken hanger that's laying on top of a pile of stuff that's broken and unsafe. So it's more about people's power sometimes has been taken away from them. Sometimes they've been in dysfunctional relationships. Sometimes they've had awful things happen to them. It's really about much more significant life events and life circumstances. So that's really not about, gee, I have too many sweaters. It's nothing. It's kind of like when I describe for people the difference between sadness and depression. It's not the same thing. So needing to declutter is not the same thing as what are we going to do about it? I'm a hoarder. But the reason people get it confused is because some of the components of hoarding are in people who need to declutter. So if your place that if your space that you live in, your place is cluttered, you could be a hoarder, but not every hoarder. You know, see what I'm saying? Not every person who has clutter is a hoarder.
But can you have organized clutter? Is it always going to be really messy? Or if you have your clutter in piles, or maybe you collect tchotchke stuff and it's just everywhere, and you dust it nicely, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it sounds like an oxymoron, neat clutter, but does that really happen?
Yes. So the fact is that there are a lot of people who the way they decorate is with a lot of stuff, and they enjoy that. There are some people who, when they look at a blank wall, they look at how many pictures can they put on that wall, how much art can they stick on it, and they put it in a way that makes sense for them, and that all is sort of spatially looks correct. But then there are other people that when they see a blank wall, they want one picture on it. That does not mean that one way is better than the other. There's no reason why you can't have a lot if that's the mood that you're going for and that's the environment that you like. Like you said, tchotchkes. A lot of people have like a lot of little figurines and a lot of paperweights and a lot of little stuff. I happen to be more of a minimalist when it comes to that. I don't have a lot on one table, but some people love that, and that's their way of decorating, and that's perfectly acceptable. Clutter is when you're not only cluttered because you won't get rid of anything, and they do usually hold all these memories, but it gets to a point where there's too much, and you're not using it, and it's not functional, and it's not even bringing you good memories. It's just stuff.
So would it be fair to say if a lot of things could be fine, but if everything and every drawer and every closet is overflowing and there's no more room anywhere, then that might be a sign that you've got to declutter then.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there are times in people's lives when this come up. I think that that people who are like newly graduated college and or on their first marriage, or that didn't come out right.
Yeah. But I know what you
on
meant.
their young marrieds.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting you have serial
Serial.
But you're in your first house kind of thing. You don't have a lot. You start accumulating. Okay. Then there are people who have accumulated, all their life, and they've never gotten rid of things. As they've taken in, they don't give anything away. So really what we're talking about is purpose. We're saying if something has a purpose in your life now, don't get rid of it. But if most of what you have is from the past and it doesn't really evoke any significant memories for you, you need to get rid of it. And if other people in the family have grown up and moved on and it's not significant to them, get rid of it.
And the way to start is your 3 piles.
That's right. Start with your piles. Start with one space at a time. In some cases, one room at a time. And I think that you can make headway rather than looking at the whole thing and saying, oh, I got to shut the door. Now, I want to say one more thing also about this issue. I have always believed, and this is my own private thought that I'm going to share with you. So I didn't learn this from a book, and I didn't learn it from my experience of others. I believe that, not experience of others, but no one has told me they have this problem, but I believe they do. So when I notice that people keep amassing things, and they keep buying and they keep buying and they keep buying, and they don't get rid of anything, but they just keep surrounding themselves with more of the same thing, more cars, more watches, more pictures, things that they have enough of, but they want more. I think that some of that, not all of it, but I think some of it relates to people's fear of death. Because I've worked with people around the issue of death, and I've worked with people around not just the fear, the anxiety. And what I find among some of those people, some of those clients, is that they keep amassing things almost as though they're saying, I'm here. I'm here now.
That's interesting.
I have this. Look, I can point to this and say, this sits on my table, and that means I'm here because I use that mug. So I'm here. And I can touch things, and I can say, this is all real. And if this is all real, that means I'm real. And that means if that stuff is here, it means I'm here too. So if I didn't have all this stuff around me, would it mean that I wouldn't be here?
Ooh, wow.
So
that's profound.
So I do think that sometimes that's what it's about for some people.
Right.
Now, I don't want every person listening to go, say to their husband, do I really need to get rid of all my shoes? Or, I'm not talking about everyone, and I'm not talking about every situation. But I do know people for whom that is, in my mind, the key issue.
Maybe then, as individuals, we can kind of look at our own lives and see what our fears are, or why we collect certain things and not others, and maybe if there is something attached to that. Because I was thinking about the fact that what we favor, what we like to get with different people, like what they're attracted to, for whether it's jewelry or art or figurines or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Shoes. And then why some things are easier to leave and some things are not. And then I guess my question would be, what if two people in a house, or 3 or 4, however many are living in your household, don't have the same philosophy of decluttering or keeping stuff? How do you handle that?
That's very tough. And what I advise people to do when that's the case, and that is often the case, is you both assign the person who wants to keep it a space. And you say, this part of the basement is all your stuff. You can put it wherever within this boundary you want, but we are going to decide together that it's not going to inculcate every single part of your world. So if you're not using it and you just want it because you want it, and you're willing to not have it take up the rest of the house, then this space can be for your stuff that you're not using, but you just want.
Yeah.
And everyone has a couple of things that they don't want to get rid of, that they're from their past, that they just want it. They just want it because they don't want to get rid of it. But that's not the same thing as my house is getting cluttered up,
right,
because I'm unwilling to get rid of all the stuff.
One more question I have for you. So what happens to us mentally when we declutter the house? Is there a relationship, or is there an effect on how we feel about, like, cluttering in the mind or with our physical stuff?
I'm so glad you asked me that, because I've seen these signs that say a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. That's not necessarily true. However, I believe that when you declutter, it's so freeing, and I think that many people believe they have like a new lease on their space, a new lease on life in their space, because they can see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can't really see what is in their world, their immediate world. There have been times when I have said to someone, I love the vase in that corner of your living room. And they say, what vase? What are you talking about? And they see it back and forth every day, but they really don't see it. So sometimes things are just there, and they shouldn't be there anymore because they have no meaning. They're just taking up space. When you do that, when you declutter and you get rid of all the extraneous stuff, I find, many clients have shared with me, and I feel this way myself, I believe that it just is so freeing to see the space and not the stuff.
Thank you. We're all going to move forward, kind of decluttering our body, mind, and spirit.
I think so.
Oh, thanks for joining Susan and I today for this episode of Real Life. If you'd like to reach out to Susan, ask a question, share an idea, you can reach her by emailing her at reallife@blueridgepbs.org. Tell your friends about Susan and the show, and we look forward to seeing you again. I'm Rose Martin. Go out there and live your very best life. Thanks.